Hey guys, welcome to the Short Term Show special episode series on one of my favorite markets of all time, the Texas Hill Country, Hook 'em Horns. So guys, we're going to do a 10 episode deep dive on investing in the Texas Hill Country. And we got 10 episodes here. I just said that, but make sure you hit that subscribe button because we are going to do a quarterly update that you don't want to miss. You guessed it, every quarter. And we do have some supplementary materials for y'all, in addition to the content on this podcast. We've got those over at our website, theshorttermshop.com. So if you want to know anything about purchase prices of properties in these markets, or we've got all of the income data thanks to our friends over at AirDNA. And we've got all of that for you, again, at theshorttermshop.com. If you guys want to buy a short-term rental with a short-term shop agent in the Texas Hill Country, email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com and we will hook you up. Or if you just want to hang out with us more and talk about short-term rentals, there's a few ways you can do that. We've got a great Facebook group, same title as my book. It's called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. Or if you want to talk to us live on Zoom, we have a call every Thursday. You can sign up for at strquestions.com, and we will catch you guys over there. Hook 'em Longhorns. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode on the Texas Hill Country of the Short Term Show special episode series. Today we're going to be talking about calendars and pricing, and we've got a great panel again to help talk about that. Luke acted like he was about to say something right when we hit record, so I'll let him introduce himself real fast.
No, not at all. Not at all. Luke, the long hair extraordinaire, happy to be here to talk about the Hill Country. And we were just there last summer, and it's a wonderful area, and I'm happy to lend any expertise I can on the pricing subject.
All right. Thanks, Luke. And next we have Stacy, super familiar face for you guys at this point, but go ahead and do a brief intro, Stacy.
Sure. I am Stacy Lancaster, the Texas Hill Country short-term shop agent, and I am a native Texan, have had lots of real estate experience with long-term rentals, short-term rentals, fix and flips, and now short-term rentals are my favorite. And we own 3 and self-manage those. Almost forgot.
All right. So let's talk about calendars and pricing for the Hill Country. So it's kind of difficult to really talk about this in a very specific way because the Hill Country is so big and covers so much ground. And there's so many different types of little submarkets in the Hill Country. You know, you've got some lakes, you've got some actual hill country that doesn't have lakes, like Fredericksburg wine country. So we're going to do the best we can to speak about as much detail as we can about each area. But first, let's talk about average, or actually, no, we're not going to talk about average lead time first. We're going to talk about seasonality. So what do we see for the season, high season, low season in this market?
Yeah, so I would say it's a pretty typical high season and low season. Your lake markets are going to be pretty much in line with any water market where you're going to be busier, in the warmer months and then less busy when it cools off. We actually do still see some decent occupancy even in the cooler months on some of our lake markets, just because people like to get their boats out, go fishing and things like that. But then some of our other markets, such as New Braunfels, that's kind of a year-round market. It is a little bit slower in January and February, but we have really mild winters most of the time. And so people are still getting out, they're taking weekend trips to New Braunfels or these little cute pocket towns like Wimberley. And we see solid occupancy in those markets almost all year round. It is slower in January and February, but it's not completely dead like you see in some markets.
And our research shows, Avery, that for the most part, now this is a fairly large area we're talking about here. It's a geographically speaking, between Austin, Texas, and San Antonio. Well, not between them, but kind of like it's a triangle, sort of. And Fredericksburg is probably the, most famous of the tourist sections of the area. Of course, you have Lukenbach as well, which Avery and I were there last summer with the world famous Willie Nelson song, which, by the way, he just turned 90. Happy birthday, Willie.
And he did some kind of festival like out there, I think.
Yeah, he has a big birthday party every year out there.
Yeah, my personal trainer went.
Yeah, his whole family comes and everything. It's like a family reunion, but it's open, it's a party. So, but anyway, I mean, I hate to keep bringing up other, like the Smokies but I mean, we really do, our research shows that this market is fairly on par with a traditional, maybe like a mountain type vacation area where, again, you have a lot of folks coming in from other areas and maybe not as many people living in this area. And just to give a kind of an overview of what you're going to see throughout the year, it's going to be a typical January and February are dead. Because, I mean, unless you've got snow skiing, you're pretty much going to be dead in a vacation town in January and February. And we are seeing that to be true here. In March and April, boom, pretty hard. You got some very major metropolitan areas that are driving distance to this area, and it's just gorgeous. If you've never been to this area, you can't describe it. It is beautiful. So March and April get that spring break heavy season, much like any other big vacation type destination, like a Branson or a Gatlinburg. And then again, May is going to be slow, as it is with any vacation town, because kids are back in school, spring break's over, and summertime has not happened yet. So traditionally, May seems to be, as far as the problem with May, and we're experiencing that as we're recording this in May, is that the outside perspective, if you're in one of these towns, is that why is there nobody here? Because the weather's really nice. But the problem is the kids are in school and we already spent our money on spring break and we're getting ready to spend our money on the lake and the skiing and the boats for the summertime. So we're taking a little breather right now. So May, yes, you can get some bookings, but you probably want to just plan on that being a little slow, which is going to be on par with September. I'll come circle back to that. But June and July are going to be heavy, of course, the 4th of July, et cetera, and summertime. And again, there are so many lakes and rivers in the area. So June and July should be really no problem for a savvy investor that's good at their calendar and good at pricing. And then, of course, August is it's a little bit of a, kind of a in the middle there, like a March, I would say, give or take. And then September is, again, back to May. The kids are back in school. Everybody spent their summertime money, and they are saving up for the holidays. So September slow. Make sure you're working on your September as early as I like to work on them in about May, give or take. Now, in this area, we do have a very heavy fall because of Oktoberfest. It's such a huge deal in this area, as you would imagine, but it's a very German, area. And so October, November, boom, pretty hard. And then, of course, the holidays are huge. Christmas is huge here. Like if you've ever been to Pigeon Forge at Christmas, it is huge. And it's very similar here. And as a matter of fact, the local municipalities have wonderful websites on the subject. Fredericksburg is extremely tourism friendly. And it's just the cutest little town on the planet. So that's kind of a broad overview of what you're going to expect from a month by month perspective.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's very important to remember in any market, guys, that May and September are slow. Everyone likes to act completely shocked every May when things slow down and flip out. May is slow, September is slow because you are right between May slow because you're right between spring break and summer. And then September slow because you just finished summer and everyone is done going on vacations. They're going back to school now. So chill, calm down. When
well, not everybody's been doing it as long as
this is my, my warning to everyone. Yeah. When May comes, remember that you listen to this.
Yeah.
And say, oh, right. Yeah, it's going to be a little slow. I'm going to chill.
And be proactive. Be proactive a couple months in advance to make sure that your May and September pricing are going to put you at the top of the algorithm. So you will get the few fish that are out there.
Cool. So, okay. I think that's enough on seasonality. Great, though. Let's talk about like average night stay. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stacey, that this is more of like a long weekend market than it is I'm coming to stay for a week market. Is that the case? Sorry.
Yeah, for the most part, I would say the lake areas, during the warmer months, you do get more week-long stays. But for the most part, like Fredericksburg, New Braunfels and stuff, you're looking at long weekends, where people are taking 4 to 5 days, maybe a Wednesday through a Sunday to come into town. Because it's drivable. Most of your guests are going to be Texans, other Texans who are, coming in or bringing their family who are from out of state to show them the charming Texas Hill Country.
Yeah, again, I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel here on the minimum night stay in this market. I think the beauty of this market is that it's not on every TV show and podcast on the planet. And we'll talk more about that. But I think it's pretty much a similar situation as far as any vacation town is concerned, where I personally just kind of base it on the size of the property and the popularity of the nights. And of course, like 4th of July, you're probably going to want 4, 5, 6 nights minimum, that kind of thing. But just a regular old 3-bedroom house, maybe you do a 3-night min, and depends on how aggressive you are. Some folks will drop that down to a 2 occasionally, 2-night min on a 3 or 4-bedroom house to fill some empty dates. I'm one of those people. I have no problem doing that. Some folks don't want to deal with. It depends on where your position in life and if you've got a day job, because it is harder to fill those 2-night holes than it is to just get the regular 3 or 4-night bookings. You got to be proactive. You got to go in there and tweak, and you got to override 3-night minimum to a 2-night minimum if you've got a 2-night hole. And some folks are too busy to care about that, So again, I don't think we're reinventing the wheel on minimum night stay here. I think you can kind of apply all the rules that we've talked about in many vacation markets to this area.
Yeah. And so we talked about on previous episodes that the two things they all can perform well, but the two main types of properties here are the small honeymoon properties and then the big wedding properties. I did not mean for those to both be wedding related, but just the small 2-people properties and the wedding venue properties. So your lead times are going to be different on the small properties versus the big wedding venue properties. Because when you think about it, I see a lot of people get really upset when they're looking at other people's calendars, but they're looking at other types of properties and comparing it to what they have. So you're going to have a much shorter lead time on the smaller properties. But whereas when people are getting married and doing big events, they're booking that way further in advance. So don't be upset if you've got a small property or maybe like a 3-bedroom right in Fredericksburg and you're looking around at some other bigger ones and notice that they're booked much further in advance. That's just kind of the nature of it. The smaller the property, typically the lower the lead time, but the higher the occupancy rate. So keep in mind too, yes, these people may have the bigger properties are going to be booked out further, but they're probably going to have less bookings. They're going to have a lower occupancy rate. So be careful when you have one type of property and you're comparing it to other types of properties.
Yeah, you make an excellent point. A lot of folks don't realize the lead time is so short in this business. Average lead time on Airbnb, they just came out last month or whatever, 3 weeks ago, and said that their average lead time worldwide right now is 22 days. So, that's going to vary greatly depending on the size of your property and also, a bit of market specific stuff in there. But you see a lot of folks on the internet saying, man, I don't have any bookings 6 months from now. And I'm sitting there like, you're probably doing your job right. If that's the case, just didn't realize it.
Yeah, totally. Sorry, I'm on mute because there are mowers outside and I'm not doing a good job of getting off mute fast enough.
No, you're doing great.
To keep it flowing. Wolfman 55 or something said that I am monotone and that I always sound like I'm on mute and then not paying attention. So middle finger to Wolfman so-and-so, but
was that, a review?
am aware of it now. Yeah, it was a review on the big podcast.
Oh boy.
I think it was somebody I fired's daughter actually, but anyway. Anyway, I am hyper aware of it now. So let's talk about waterfront properties, whether that's river or lake versus the true hill country properties and how the lead times differ on that. And then we'll, and maybe the minimum night stay there. And then we'll move on to the actual pricing because I think Luke had a lot on the pricing.
Yeah, I would say the lead time, especially in the summer for waterfront properties, is probably going to be a little bit longer. People are going to be booking those a little bit further out just because those properties, there's a lot of them, but there's not like a unlimited supply. So people are going to want to try to book those out like for the summer months and stuff. I would expect a little bit longer lead time than you would for, say, a property in like Fredericksburg or a smaller property in Fredericksburg. What was the other part of the question? Sorry, I forgot.
Lake versus not lake.
Okay. Yeah. And so the not lake, I think you're going to have a shorter lead time, as well, because there's lots of those properties out there. And people are kind of planning a last minute, hey, let's go to the lake this weekend, kind of thing. Let's see what's available. They're not necessarily, some people are planning like well in advance. Families coming into town, we're going to spend a week at the lake, and then they'll book further out. But for the most part, not lakefront is going to probably be just kind of standard in this market. With a shorter lead time.
All right, cool. Yeah, we did do the Jackalope Bar employee retreat out to the lake, which was pretty last minute usually. This was years ago.
When you say the lake, which lake are we talking?
Canyon Lake. We would go to Canyon Lake.
But Stacey, there's very few actual lake properties on the lake there, Canyon Lake. Is that what you said?
That's correct. There's not very many lakefront. Now, everything is easily accessible to the lake, but there are few and far between properties that are actually lakefront.
And those
just because of the way it's built.
And those would be high dollar properties?
Yes, very high dollar properties, $1 million plus.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about pricing, because I think Luke had quite a bit to say about his pricing research in this market. Hopefully his research will come from experience here pretty soon when he finally lets me get something in Wimberley.
Well, I think
email him at luke@theshorttermshop.com to make sure I get that.
For email. But anyway, yeah, I think you're just used to me having a lot to say is really all that is. But I mean, my research shows that the area is not as sophisticated as other areas, which is good for folks that are coming in maybe from another town. But it's kind of a weird one for me because this area is so, localized and specialized that I do think that it would be a good candidate would be somebody who's familiar with the area and obviously in love with the area. It's a tough one. I think it kind of crosses two different lines here with the fact that you could be from Arizona or California and have never been to this area and come in and do pretty well, just by basically smoking your competition. But at the same time, it's kind of like, dude, what are you doing up here in these hills? Like, do you even know have you even been here before? We're in Gatlinburg. It's so common for people to have never even been there before, but, and it's that, again, real estate investing in a whole is very much like that. And it just, for whatever reason, there is a stigma there with these short terms that, oh, you're not a local, you don't know the area. And it's like, dude, there's been people buying storage units in towns they've never heard of for hundreds of years, and maybe not hundreds, but a long time. And same thing with mobile home parks. Oh, yeah, I own a mobile home park in Maine. I've never been there, but it's like on Caddyshack. What's wrong with lumberyards? I own 6 of them. He goes, I notice you don't spend a lot of time there. And he goes, well, I don't know where they are. And that's real estate investing is very much like that. You're buying an asset to produce income. And a lot of times people don't know where it is or how to get there. And they just don't care. Now, when it comes to short term, that is a little bit different. I think especially in this market, because it is such an enchanting area that is easy to fall in love with. It'd be perfect for a candidate that doesn't really care how much revenue it makes. Somebody that wants to keep their prices high and maybe not rent it all the time because they want to go there more often. It's a perfect market for that. Just kind of subsidize their, taxes and electricity bill, things like that. Which is, again, it's a huge benefit in short term that folks don't talk about. There's a ton of people out there that would love to have a second home, a vacation home, get away from San Antonio, get out, stretch out, breathe the fresh air, get away from the hustle and bustle. And, oh, holy crap, you mean a few times a year I don't have to pay, I can cover my property taxes, so there's a lot going on here. But let me get back to the pricing. I think there is, like I said, a lot of room for improvement because you got a little bit of old school going on here. You got some folks that have been doing it for a really long time that it hasn't quite been discovered. And when that happens, folks get lazy. There's going to be a small contingency of hosts in this area that are crushing it. And then the rest of the people are just like, don't really care. And maybe they're in that vacation, pay my taxes category, or maybe they're using a property manager, which is nothing wrong with that. But what I'm getting at is that if you are the investor that's got that mindset, like I want to quit my job and do real estate full time, and I need every cash flow dollar I can possibly get, I do feel like there's a lot of improvement to be made in this area. My research shows that most of these hosts are pricing their properties way too high. And I don't really know where that's coming from, other than the fact that they probably just don't really care if it books that, like that much. Like a lot of wealthy people live in this area and go to this area. So I think there's a lot of that going on. But when I look around at calendars in this area, there's a decent amount of empty. Again, we are in May right now. And I'm looking at the calendar and I'm like, this dude's charging $800 a night. I mean, so do some quick math on that. Let me just pull out my calculator and get comfortable. So let's like 800. I'm literally got one in front of me right now. This guy's $750 a night in May, which is entire May is empty. So let's do $750 times, I don't know, let's go 25 nights. That's $18,750 for this 4-bedroom house. And it doesn't even have a view or lake or anything. It's just in Johnson City, which is kind of it's awesome, but it's not as heavy tourism as like a Fredericksburg. So this home is a 4-3. Again, she's asking $750 a night, no bookings in May, and that's $18,750 on this thing. Now, again, I don't know what she multiply that times 12. That's $225,000 of gross income based on 25 nights a month, whatever the occupancy rate is on that. 90%. I don't know. Some numbers guys screaming at me right now, but you get my point. If this lady needs this thing to gross $225,000 a year, I just don't see that possible. You know what I mean? So, and something tells me this home, again, I don't know what she paid for it, could probably, let's make up another number. Let's say she drops it down to $500 a night at 25 nights. That's $12,500. Let's say she's got to go all the way down to $300 times 25 nights. That's $7,500 a month on this 4-bedroom house. Are you telling me that her PITI is more than $7,000 a night on this thing? I don't think so. So anyway, and by the way, this host I'm talking about right now has 4.95 reviews and a lot of reviews. So she's been around, she's got, 300 reviews and multiple properties. This particular property only has 50, which is a lot. That's at least a year worth of service. So anyway, I'm seeing that a lot going across the board here in this area where these folks are pricing it too high, which is super common. Also doing too long minimum night stays, which is super common because times they haven't changed. And if you're coming in here with this old school mentality, you're going to be like this lady and be left behind in May and June and July. And if you come in here, knowing what's going on out there and caring and giving a crap, and God bless this lady. Maybe she doesn't need to give a crap. Like I said, there's all sorts of different folks to get into this business. But if you did need to give a crap, I think you could definitely, you could come in here and kind of smoke your competition a little bit because there's not a lot of I would say seasoned folks doing it up in this area. So that's my speech.
Yeah, that's spot on, Luke. A lot of people are using property managers. And in Fredericksburg, we've got some good property managers who are, they're using the smart pricing and stuff, but in a lot of areas, nobody's even using smart pricing or things like that. They're just kind of, I think, spitballing it and seeing what they'll get out of the property. So there's definitely a lot of room, in places like Canyon Lake to set the bar and to really outshine the competition.
I think you could be an early adopter here. Like a lot of folks want to point the finger at Destin and Gatlinburg and Branson and things like that. Well, there's so many saturated. There's so many hosts now doing it themselves and this and that. And it's getting harder and harder, which may or may not be true. But really, at the end of the day, you just got to adapt, So I think in this market, you're getting ahead of the curve. You can be an early adopter, get in there and scoop up 50 or 60 reviews before it, for lack of a better word, gets discovered.
Yep, I totally agree with that. So many people are like, oh, well, I don't want to buy here or there because there's so many. So buy somewhere where you can be a little bit more of an early adopter. And by early adopter, I don't mean one of the first hosts to the area. I mean one of the first few sophisticated hosts in an area. So like the Gatlinburg market had a ton of hosts already up until 2018, 2019, but a lot of them just weren't doing a good job. They would just slap it up there, say, oh, you can get a whole house for the price of a hotel room and, bad pictures and stuff. And then as of the past 2 or 3 years, a lot of the more sophisticated investors have come in who know how to use price labs, who are using the automation tools and who are using the good marketing tools. So here, in this market, it's kind of almost like what Gatlinburg was 5 years ago, where there's hosts already, but a lot of them aren't as sophisticated. So you, as a sophisticated manager, can come in and really do really well. So if you're scared of the whole quote saturated market thing, this is a really good place for you. All right. What else do we need to touch on that we haven't in terms of calendars, pricing, seasonality, minimum night stays, anything like that?
Man, I think, I'll turn it over to Stacy, but I think we've covered it all. I really think you got a good opportunity here to come in and have a home that you're madly in love with in a really cool area. And if you put in the time, you listen to what Avery's got going on, read her book and all the cool, hip, modern technology that's out there and again, we didn't invent any of this technology. We just are really good at using it. Early adopters across the board. And if you come in here, you could really have, I think, something that your family can enjoy for generations. And again, just a super, super awesome area, and no reason to overthink the pricing or the minimum stays or the occupancy or the seasonality. It is very on par with a typical vacation market. One cool thing, natural disasters are a little lower in this area. Do we have tornadoes often, Stacy?
Not often.
I don't think so.
It's pretty rare.
And no hurricanes or anything like that. So that's really cool. But anything to close it, Stacy?
Yeah, I would just say that because the Texas Hill Country is so big, there's a lot of, diverse areas geographically. So there's all kinds of, and as far as like markets, there's different price ranges. So there's kind of a little bit of something that could fit everybody. If this is an area that they're interested in, there's lots of opportunities.
All right. Well, cool. Well, then on that note, we will end it. Guys, if you want real current data on prices of properties, on income of properties, we have all of that on our website. You can see it at theshorttermshop.com. So we are just kind of keeping this general so that it's still relevant 6 months from now. So any real-time pricing of properties or data that you want to see, it's all on our website at theshorttermshop.com. If you want to buy a house with Stacy, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com to get connected. Or if you just have more questions, want to be a part of our community, we have a Facebook group called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, same as my book. Or every Thursday, we have a live Zoom Q&A call, and you can join that at strquestions.com.